24 hours for Kaspa. As KRC20 launches, the technological capabilities on chain are increasing to inscriptions. This is like a type of a smart contract that only works in data. It's not a smart contract, but it's a step in that direction. Once we get inscriptions, now this opens the door for stablecoins, and that is absolutely a huge driving factor for Kaspa. We can see James Prescott saying, yeah, the rusty path, making the connection. Solana's written on Rust, which is already clearing the way, clearing the path, as well as a lot of devs are working on Rust, which is a very rare coding language, getting ready to migrate onto Kaspa. Once we have the #1 stablecoin, and we're going to go through DeFi Llama and check out every single stable coin, how much market cap they're getting, the daily transactions, and then historically look into the driving factors behind that. Once we have the strongest stable coin on Kaspa, we win. Why? That's the key factor. Why is that such a big measurement in the equation? Because of the market makers. Part of their business model is they're the one providing all this liquidity on Coinbase, Binance. One of the biggest misconceptions we hear in the Kaspa community, because it's smart launch, there's going to be people accumulating Kaspa. By people, we mean the big players, the guys who actually move markets. They're going to be grabbing Kaspa because it's fair launch, and it's not Coinbase and Binance, the exchanges, Kraken. It's market makers. The exchanges will often do a portion of the liquidity themselves, but the market makers, they deal the business to those larger entities with the enormous bankrolls. That's why having such a strong stable coin is key for the success of any crypto projects, particularly Kaspa. Nick G's coming out with a good question, and this is all going to piece into the point that we're making right now. He's talking about the fees to mint KRC20 tokens when it launches. He's hearing that it's going to go all the way up to $7. Would that be worth it? This is going to increase the fees that the miners make. Specifically, that's going to jump up Marathon Digital. Who owns Marathon Digital? BlackRock, and then, of course, Jane and Jump Street. These are the market makers. These are the entities, back to the point that we were making about finding the best stablecoin, and that's the key to Kaspa's success. We can see on the KII homepage, they're talking about, yeah, we want to get these stablecoins rocking. Kasplex doing the inscription is the first step in the right direction. It's such a key part of the market makers' business model. They own all of these altcoins, and then they have to own stable coins because they're providing the liquidity. So imagine that we're in the boardroom of Jane and Jump Street. We own the biggest bag of crypto in the world, and alongside that comes the biggest bag of stable coins. They're always looking for low fees, more security. And as we can see, Solana, and we're going to go into what drove Solana way up, but Solana actually took a massive hit because they've been having all those disruptions on chains, all the issues. Their volume in stablecoin rocketed, but we'll get into that in a minute. At the end of the day, we have to remember crypto's a zero-sum game, and too often we think we're playing against other retail traders. There are loads of people sitting at this card game. There's market makers, there's VC firms, there's the teams, there's the businesses utilizing the crypto, the commodities, to enhance their already existing business model. And then there's retail traders. So we've got to really look around and make sure that we're playing everybody else's hands, specifically the market makers. They have the chip lead. So you want to know when that guy's going to be making a move and what's motivating them, undoubtedly. Great question. Do we seriously think that we'll see a buy the rumor, sell the news this week? There's a lot of other factors going on and fundamentals behind why they're launching KRC20 inscriptions right now. Simultaneously, we're talking 3 days after this launch, which is taking place tomorrow on Wednesday, Powell, the head of the FOMC, he's going to step up to the podium and cut rates. England just cut rates a few days ago. The fundamentals behind that are to get money out of the security treasury market, out of the bond market here, and into risk-on assets. You can see this cut and dry right here, February 2020 of 2020, and June 13th of 2022. These literally, jumping over to Bitcoin, they mark the tops and bottom. Because Powell and the FOMC control the entire market, they control stocks, and thus they control risk-on markets right there. They cue the run-up by raising these rates. What they're doing and why this can be a buy the rumor, sell the news is they're pushing money into the economy because it needs stimulation. They need to start creating jobs. That's why you always hear the stock people use this information all the time. The crypto people got spoiled so bad because that chart, that's like a dream chart. There's a sudden drop off and then it holds down for a year. I mean, that's ridiculously bullish. So nobody even mind any difference to monetary policy, but it's part of Satoshi's secret. He wove this all together with the Bitcoin halving. And then you can see right here when Bitcoin drops, that's when those bonds reached a new local all-time high. So the fundamentals, to answer your question, now that we have this information, the fundamentals of buy the rumor, sell the news go with Kaspa stepping up saying, hey, don't buy bonds. Why don't you build on the Kaspa chain with us? Why don't you VC fund some type of utility coin on Kaspa, such as Trader Joe on AVAX, that entire deal. And this is going directly to Jane and Jump Street. Now, adding on to the comment we just answered before that about the fees, this is great timing because as soon as KRC20 jumps up, the fees are all increasing. And so Marathon, this for even retail hobby miners, you've got a Kaspa miner at your house, you're going to see your profits go up. This is good for Ice River, who's part of the Kasplex team, but it's also really good for Marathon. 1% of all their hash is in Kaspa. So they're going to see a huge spike in profit. And guess who gets all of this information? They've got guys who went to college for 8 years to study bond markets and risk on stuff. They're giving them a report about the inscriptions on Kaspa simultaneously as the bond markets is going down. So it's really a fundraising, advertising narrative to get people to start building on chain, to increase the ecosystem, which right now is a handful of meme coins. Nothing too amazingly exciting quite yet. In order to fully grasp the path that Kaspa is heading down, in order for them to get the #1 stablecoin, jumping over to DeFi Llama, we're going to pull up tons of statistics. They have a much easier journey than cryptos that were in front of them, specifically because Solana is also written on Rust. And we'll get into what Tether, the business, looks for as they start bringing in strategic partners to build on their chain. All part of this business ecosystems. One of the secret sauces that we have on this channel is, yes, we're going to get into Techville right now. We're going to talk about some nerdy stuff. You have to have somewhat of an understanding of that to a level that you can mitigate and assess where the money is going to flow around and how stablecoins, Tether wants to get involved and starts rubbing their shoulders with Kaspa to run it on chain, meeting their criteria. And thus the technology, as we know with Kaspa, can do the rest. It's a zero-sum game. So we've got to analyze what the market makers are doing. Just keep that in mind as we're looking over all these stats and data. You're Jane and Jump Street. You're going to want to own a huge bag of stablecoins. What stablecoin network do you want to go on? Starting out with Solana. And this is giving us two different metrics come into play when you're measuring the popularity of stablecoins. As we can see, there was a lot of documentation about how Solana's stablecoin volume dropped. Now, there's two main types of measurements. One is stablecoins in storage. Because of the popularity of crypto, as opposed to other cycles right now, big companies, Tesla, PayPal, they have stable coins, obviously MicroStrategy, as part of their balance sheet. And that's growing. For one, it's a great way to do cross-border payments. They're jumping over massive regulation hurdles. They can just, oh yeah, we'll just wire the money instead of going through the banking system or the SWIFT system, which is ultimately what crypto competes with, that credit card system. They can just, send USTD. So more and more business entities are keeping cash balance in stable coins. When we look at DeFi Llama, we can see what the most popular chains are. So Solana was getting super popular because of meme coin mania. We've all seen the explosive growth in Solana meme coins, and a lot of that comes from the fact that they just opened up their second smart contract platforms. Right back here, right around, I think it was March of 2023, they opened up, instead of just having native smart contracts like they had during the last bull market, now they have both. And this is opening the door for way more building on the ecosystem. Meme coin mania explodes in Solana, and this ups because of the Trader Doge type apps, because of the swapping. Meme coins is a very highly volatile market. People are trading those all the time out of the Solana meme coins into the Solana USTD on that chain. It rocketed, and then there was technological glitches. There was issues in the technology. So right now, Solana is not the big player on the field. It had its chance, and it failed because it couldn't solve the trilemma. As we start getting into why Tether even wants to pair up with these different blockchains, the criteria that they use, we'll start by getting into this transaction speed. So we have a great document right here that's actually putting Solana head-to-head with Kaspa. Now, in terms of transaction speed and some other factors, Solana's the king of the jungle. They're faster than Kaspa right now. We can see, here's the TPS allocation, transactions per second. And this all has to do with inscriptions. This all has to do with that numerical data layer, also connected to ZK Tech. What we'll see and often be tricked by or fooled by teams are always trying to hide in audio video. This is an entirely new skill set on top of trading. So back to this document that we were looking at right here, which actually lays out for us. Let's get a zoom in here. All the speed, the transactions per second. We were just talking about how TPS is such a key factor because it's also correlated with, of course, inscriptions and also ZK rollup technology. It's really that transactions per second, different than smart contracts. It's that surface layer. It's that numerological measurement. So a lot of times when we're vetting projects, the teams will do a great job in hiding the weakness of the speed of their project, particularly because they will give us a number that's not based on their on-chain metrics. They'll give us a number that's based on with layer 2 enhancements. And they can just report that as their TPS. I see constantly inside VIP, people are showing me projects that are like, oh, look at how fast this is on TPS. And those teams are actually pulling the wool over our eye. And you'll notice this after you've read 100 or so white papers. They'll report abnormally large TPS. So what we're seeing on Kaspa, once we finish the 10 blocks per second upgrade, now we're at 3,000 transactions per second. So Solana is reporting on-chain 4,000. And now they're throwing around this number that you'll read everywhere, 65,000. In my opinion, this is somehow enhanced because of all their layer 2 activities, both on-chain and on the Ethereum virtual machine. It seems like quite a far cry to go from 4,000 to 65,000. Solana's been around longer. They've had more time to development. Kaspa, you hear about Jonathan Saplinski wanting to bring it up to 100 blocks per second. That's where they can max out. They're going to go from 10 to 32 to 100. Kaspa can get right up there anyway, but they don't even need to. Yes, I did get rugged by Best Buy, and shout out to Sin City Crypto. I went around and hired through the white pages, the yellow pages, looking for an audio video company. I somehow get on the phone with Sin City Crypto. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a crypto show in my Las Vegas Strip condo. Can you guys see the view back there? We're way up on like the 40th story. It's awesome. And it's Sin City Crypto. So they invited me to their studio and they interview the Kaspa team right in there. They were like, yeah, you want to go to lunch with the Kaspa guys? I'm like, no, I wouldn't even know what to do. I'm like, yeah, couldn't handle that. But they were nice enough to take my money, come down here and set this up for me. But of course, I'm having hardware issues with the Best Buy. So we're working on that. This guy's getting pumped up for Nacho, and there are, I think, 45 different projects that are available. Remember, we're still super duper early. The majority of even meme coins, let alone ecosystem projects on top of Kaspa that this USTD is going to be used for, don't even exist yet. And we'll start to touch base on some of what those are going to be. So back to these numbers. Let's stay on task here. 3,000, that's the number. We've got to beat 3,000. Going back to DeFi Llama. So Solana right now, after all their issues with technical stuff, they're doing 4 billion. At one point, that was getting up there. Let's see how much Ethereum's doing. So Ethereum, who's like the granddaddy of all of these projects, holding the weight for stablecoins, the biggest player in the field, they're doing 83 billion. Solana's doing 4. Tron is doing way more than Solana. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that Solana just lost their lunch money. Solana just got what they had coming. They can't solve the trilemma. Their blockchain kept crashing. We're playing the market makers' hands. They've got hundreds of billions of dollars in stablecoins. You think they want to run it on some network that can crash, that can lose pegging? Who was around the last time USTD depegged? It like dipped down to like 87 cents. I had my bankroll in there. I was like, oh my God, don't do this to me. Nail biter. And for people with hundreds of billions of dollars, they don't want to see that. They want the trilemma to be solved. We understand how Kaspa crushes these guys on that technical angle. What we're trying to add on to is the market makers, how they're going to play their hand. So we can see even more documentation about Tron. This is a document written about the best methods to do UST payment, and it's going into detail about Tron right here. And we can see, guess how fast Tron is? There are only 2,000 transactions per second. 2,000 transactions per second. So Kaspa, once we reach 10 BPS, we're faster than Tron. Looking at the stablecoin market right now, Solana's out of the runnings. They got that proof of stake. You know, they haven't really met the quota. The market makers don't want that. What they want is Tron. And the reason that Kasplex is so genius for launching right now is because as this bond market starts to pay less yield, this is like a government-based DeFi bubble. The stock market itself is based around this. So back during the prior cycle, as this bubble started to, the rates went down to zero, we know 1 year into the future, that's exactly when stocks are going to start to rocket to the upside. And from counting the short positions, I'll show you guys my GameStop buy-in. See, stock trading is way more difficult. We're getting into GameStop, adding on to our position that we started building 90 days before. Stock trading, way more difficult than crypto. Like 25% on a stock trade is like a home run. The entire GameStop phenomenon, if you got in 90 days before it started, would be like you bought Kaspa 400 days ago. And we still got massive upside to go. As you can see, this money coming out of bonds, flushing into the ecosystem to create jobs for crypto. That means build ecosystems for stocks. Once these guys are flush, they can start to build their network out. GameStop can open more hubs. They can build GameStop online. Just using that example. And then the federal government controls it. Once they get back up to this high, that's the end. And this juicy period right here, this is phase 2 of the bull run. Jumping over to the total 3 chart, and we're going to detail why this USTD for Kaspa, what they can use it for, is super key. So we can see right here, the KII, they're very interested in getting Kaspa stablecoins going. But to what end? They're not meme coin traders. What these guys want to do is energy trading platforms. So what we're talking about, yes, this is hands down. This is a reason why everybody watching this right now, you got to subscribe. You got to hit the thumbs up. You remember when Invest Answers and like all these big YouTuber channels, they would come over and diss Kaspa, and they will always show, God bless his soul, like these youngsters like Galaxy, whose channel is older and got popular because he's been pumping up meme coins, right? They always show him and they immediately get a biased. And they're like, if these young meme coin traders like it, they immediately start getting a bias and they don't give it fair assessment. From having experience in the stock market, correlating Kaspa to the bond markets as well as crypto in general, we can give a much more detailed accounting for the $10 price prediction. And it's up to you guys, the community. Subscribing is free. Hitting thumbs up, sharing this video helps build your bags. And of course, this is just the surface level. So this information that we're dropping, starting to ding bells for you as you're looking at how this creates the cycle tops and how the Fed's controlling all the market in general, looking back over the total 3. Remember these specific dates: February 20th, June 16th of 2022, looking at the total 3 chart. Right here is when the run up happened on altcoins. Now on Bitcoin, it's a totally different beast. because Bitcoin, very different than altcoins. Right here is that February date. So Bitcoin already reached its high. Bitcoin's not looking for that injection of cash to grow the ecosystem like your AVAX, like your Phantoms, like your Solana. So that peak on Bitcoin, that 1 year after the treasury bonds right here, this is the run-up phase. So talking about straight up price predictions, great timing on this question, best boss, absolutely. In the right bond scenario. What I mean by that is we want this treasury bond just like it did last cycle, and this is part of Satoshi's genius. It was 4 years ago to the day that Powell was stepping up and cutting rates. You see, this is the rates that they're going to pay, getting money out of the federal government treasuries into on the street economy, GameStop and crypto to grow and build jobs. And then when they want that market to be over with, they start raising the rates, giving the market makers who we need to play their hand of poker, they've got all the chips, right? They're giving them an off-ramp out of crypto. So in the perfect scenario, rates go back to zero and they stay at zero for a year, just like they happened in the last cycle. Satoshi weaved this with the global liquidity cycle. It's not just a coincidence that they're cutting rates. Last time they cut rates was down here on Bitcoin, exactly 4 years ago. Or that's the total 3, but you get the picture. So the difference between Bitcoin is then we have the distribution phase. So as this cash injection is in the markets, stimulating them for growth, this is when AVAX, Solanas, Phantoms, all your altcoins, they have this cash. Now they can build. They can create the Trader Joe's, their utility coins, and then all the projects on top of that to absolutely rocket. And this year, it's going to be a totally different bull market. Anybody in chat, were you guys around for the 2021 DeFi mania? Crypto kind of ended up getting a bad name based on what was happening during the peak of the market. You guys remember like Bored Apes Yachts Club? Everybody's like, it's a JPEG that cost $1 million. Like, I don't want to buy that. There was a lot of like these DeFi node as a service, just blatant Ponzi schemes. Teams would come up with anything, and it's not the chain's fault. It's not Solana, AVAX, Phantom. It's just coders around the world using them. People want to see these massive gains, and they realize they can't just buy the top of the pump, so they're looking for new listings. We don't even understand how early we are. The second phase is going to get completely goofy. So this guy's talking about 3 to 5. This is all tying in to the perfect bond market scenario where it goes to zero and holds at zero. What happens is we get this monster run up here. Bitcoin will reach 150,000, but the altcoins will just have their run up because Kaspa is already starting the inscriptions now. The ecosystem will get built ahead of time because of that marathon digital paperwork that we were just viewing. Jane and Jump Street, the market makers, they own Mara. So as the fees start rising, this is just more incentive for them to start building on the Kaspa ecosystem, not to mention the KII. And what the KII is all about, oh yeah, we got the marathon digital paperwork right here. Jane and Jump Street, BlackRock, these guys own Marathon Digital. And more importantly, and this is the coup d'etat of the whole thing, is what the KII is all about. They're going to start tokenizing carbon credits, the energy and climate system. As we look at all the team members, every single one of them has got some kind of a official degree in climate change and energy, because they're getting ready to tokenize that. put it on the blockchain, make it more efficient tracking. But back to the charts and back to the $10. Okay, so fully grasping the difference between the run-up and the distribution phase, Kaspa's going to have a strong run-up. During the run-up, when Bitcoin hits 150,000, and we can time this by looking at the bond markets. You guys want to see some really weird timing on bond markets? Inside VIP, we knew, not even using technical analysis, but we combined the repeating trendline system. On August 26th, the entire market was going to go to the downside because the government was offering a huge bond auction right before the rate cuts. So obviously we're playing the market maker's hands. What are we going to do? We're going to get 5% yield. We've been compounding this in bonds for a while. We go buy more bonds, and this slurps liquidity out of the market, causing this wave to the downside. Looking forward 1 year, now we're starting to see this massive injection of liquidity as this bond bubble pops. The entire lobbying stuff in Congress that you hear about, it's just people paying politicians to make sure that they get regulations in favor to get a piece of this bubble. This is what it's all about. This is economics 101. This is crypto 101 behind the scenes. Knowing this and utilizing it, we've beat every other content creator. I'm not just talking about the Kaspa crew. We crushed everybody. The rest of these content creators are kind of like, because their problem was they all bought in while they were raising rates right back here. We started the channel here knowing Powell's about to raise rates. This is a short. That means he's providing a more smooth off-ramp for market makers to take their cash out of crypto and the stock market and put it into bonds. This caused a massive crash, which we shorted, and everybody, Altcoin Daily, Crypto Banter, they logged it. You can just go back in their history. They were like, now's the time, load your bags. They didn't understand how to define the cycles based on bond information. So using that exact information in more detail, looking forward, in the distribution phase, we hit $10 easy. And I'll show you that in historic reference. So Kaspa starts off in the run-up. Bitcoin hits 150. We can all agree Bitcoin will get to 150. We can do technical analysis, repeating trend lines, and show it 10 ways from Sunday. 150,000, pretty modest assumption. It's double the local swing high. We're at like 74,000 here. Double that, we're at 150. That's achievable. Looking at the historical data, this is off the prior market. And adding more detail to this, we're going to look at this. And this is part of the Satoshi's puzzle pieces. In 2023, so that's 2 years before the bull market's going to start topping off, there was $140 trillion in global liquidity. During the last cycle, there was 100 trillion. So we're looking at, by the time this peaks out, 160, 170, because it's compounding. As Bitcoin hits 150, this is $3 trillion. And then the altcoins, as we can see with BNB, Solana, Cardano, XRP, they're capturing between 10% and 5% in fluctuations during the distribution phase, not the run-up phase, but the distribution as they're building on their chain. So Kaspa getting ahead of the game, starting to fundraise to build on their ecosystem right now as the government is pushing cash out of bonds this week. Casplex is going to make sure Marathon Digital's revenue goes through the roof. So everybody that owns it, all the market makers like Jane and Jump Street, they're like, okay, yeah, Kaspa's on my desk. I'm looking at Kaspa. I'm not buying bonds because they're not paying me enough. I'm going to buy and build on Kaspa ecosystem. And maintaining and having the strongest stablecoin Super key. Yes, we've got a lot of alpha here, but this rabbit hole goes way deeper, you guys. This and all of our live streams that we do is all part of a fundamental research system known as the 24-point checklist. It also comes with 84 questions that you cut, copy, paste, and inject into artificial intelligence, hence the name, Jesse and AI. The reason why we always come up with this accurate information is because we've learned to use AI to engage us in research. People are often looking for devices that are AI that can just predict price. Well, we know the price models and what they're built on. We know technical analysis, the repeating trendline system, this exact trend line that we were wagering on would go short, act as resistance, has reappeared again. There's always repeating trend lines in crypto because they have strict halving and emission schedules. Combine that with classical patterns, and we've got a whole new level of insight. AI gives us more information, helps us go even deeper. Like it can show us not just the 1-year treasury bonds, we can start getting into like AAA high risk yield spread. There's a whole lot of different avenues that you can go. The entire world works based on these. If they're going to build a railroad, a school, a tank, an airplane for the government, they're writing a bond for it. It's in everything. It's everything. You can go to college for 8 years to study this, and it's directly correlated with market price. Inside VIP, we were just giving everyone a heads up. Yeah, August 28th, huge bond auction causes this massive sell-off on the chart. You could combine that with technical analysis as well. Boom. Getting back on task here with stablecoins. They're super crutch in order to open the door to build on top of during the distribution chain. So last year, any of the OGs out there who remember, they built all these cruddy DeFi degen type of plays, like buy this NFT and stake it for 100 days and you'll get your money back. And it was just so clearly just blatant Ponzi-nomics that the government had to step in and start regulating cryptocurrency to ensure that the projects that will come out during the distribution phase are going to be way more quality. The KII is coming up with the most quality use for distribution layer with particularly energy, green finance trading. Excuse me. Where would that go? I mean, that's gigantic. Energy trading platforms. Here's the issue with the tokenization of carbon credits. I can actually bring up this document historically. Carbon credits is a $4 billion market. It's a $400 billion market. The tokenization of carbon credits explained. Don't crash. Okay. This is exactly what the KII is talking about here. Energy trading platforms, they need the tokenization of carbon credits. It's a $400 billion market that's illiquid, meaning Tesla and all of the climate regulated projects, the people that are staying up to date with the climate control regulation, they're getting all their carbon credits. They're doing a great job, but guess what? They can't sell them. Nobody wants to buy them. There's not enough players in the market. Therefore, by creating these energy trading platforms, and this is what the KII is all about. I mean, these guys are embedded in the Middle East, embedded in the energy sector, and rubbing shoulders with the euro all at the same time. This is the center of power in the world. We've been hearing a lot about the destabilization of the petrodollar. The entire US dollar is like ultimately backed by oil and thus the military control of the Middle East. They're moving away from that and they're moving into blockchain instead of fiat. And it looks like Kaspa's on the front line. This is amazing because they need to allow retail traders to be able to stake these. They want to turn them into GameFi. Let me see if I can find out where this is. Well, in this document, as you read over it, they start talking about what they're going to do once they tokenize carbon credits. Of course, they're staking. So regular retail traders, we can invest in carbon credits. We can buy those off of Tesla, stake them in DeFi, get a yield, and they also want to attach it to like GameFi, just so it can be expended and there's just like end users attached to it. So big plans for the energy sector. And this is why AI is going to be huge. Marathon Digital, to answer your question, they're a Bitcoin mining stock. And they recently announced they've been mining Kaspa since September. I'm going to put a new battery in the camera. Yeah, that announcement that Marathon Digital is now involved with Kaspa, this was game changing. Now all of a sudden the Bitcoin maxis, they lost all their footing. They're like, oh my goodness. Right when it came out, Michael Saylor's Twitter account posted a Bitcoin apple with the color schemes of Kaspa. And so what this is showing us, playing the poker hands of Jane and Jump Street, because they're the ones that own Marathon Digital. BlackRock owns the biggest piece. Jane and Jump Street owns another piece. Jane and Jump Street are huge VCs. So they own loads of stablecoins. They're very interested because of the crash of Solana. Solana dropped the ball, man. They had it, dude. They were like about to get into the end zone with the football. They started doing a touchdown dance too early. Boom. They are right now. So all of these coders who know Rust, who have worked on Rust, are going to start moving in time into Kaspa. It's just cleared out an entire path for them to completely dominate stablecoins. And we know this because of the market makers' hands. We can see KRC20 is about to go live right now, tomorrow. This is going to increase the miner fees, meaning Marathon Digital is going to get, they only mine 1% of their hash rate in Kaspa, but they're going to notice it. They just kind of have their finger on the pulse of Kaspa, Marathon Digital. Therefore, these huge companies are going to get their eye on it. And that's exactly what we want, to develop and build the ecosystem before the run-up and distribution phase. We don't know what's going to happen with the bond market. We could have a terrible bond experience. They could keep the rates up above 3%. We don't know what Powell's going to do. In the scenario where the rates stay above 3, we're way more likely to get a blow off top and we won't have such a strong distribution phase. So Kasplex is doing the right thing. They're doing exactly what they should, ensuring that we get a massive injection of growth as this money's coming in, even beforehand. Looking at AVAX for an example, just to show you how much the second phase of the bull run is crucial for projects. Look at this. We've got Bruce Hester, who came in buying Kaspa super early. I remember way back in the day, as Bruce does as well, when we were at the bottom of this cup formation, everybody was saying, oh, well, we're too late. What you really should have done is got in on Kaspa way back here when it was a fraction of a penny. It was one of the top performing cryptos of its time here. And everybody was like, oh, you missed it. Yeah, there's been some great gains since early on. It's been for 2 years in a row, a top performing, like a top 10 performing asset, micro caps excluded. We are so early right now. Yes, everybody's trying to get the best deal they can, and a few cents does make difference because of how many multipliers we still have ahead of us. Looking at the total three, we get the run up and then this distribution phase, so key for growth. On AVAX, look at how important distribution was. So you're buying AVAX back here, you're getting in at $3. You get the run up, wow. You're going to get like 10, 12, 15x there on this run up. Not bad. Gets up to 40, right? That's great. And then the distribution phase. Because bond rates were at 0, that money says stays locked. On the street, growing businesses. This is part of Satoshi's genius. He weaved the cycle in with the global market liquidity. Alan Greenspan is rumored to be on the team of geniuses who put Bitcoin together. It would take somebody with his level of knowledge, experience, and understanding. He ran the FOMC. If you ask artificial intelligence who Satoshi is, 10 Ways from Sunday, the only name that constantly comes up is Alan Greenspan. Jonathan Saplinsky is one of the OGs of crypto in general. He teaches the technology, blockchain, encryption at Harvard for well over a decade. So there's a very good chance he was either on the team, knew people on the team, was a mentor of somebody on the team, because of how restricted of a field of people it is. It's like somebody winning a chess tournament online that Hikaru and Magnus Carlsen were all in. There's only a handful of people that can win it. Therefore, Jonathan Saplinsky, very, very close. Neil Adams jumping in with a good question. This information is starting to get dealt out to us right now. So anybody who's making their bull run price predictions doesn't have as accurate as a model as we're using. This is how we were able to time the low on the market, is from this relevization. We still need more information from the FOMC. So this week, when that old guy gets up on TV, Powell, the guy with the gray hair standing in front of the flags, monotone, very boring to watch. The reason he's on TV isn't because he's so handsome and charismatic. He's controlling the bond market and therefore basically the world. We want to see this number come down as fast and hard as possible, the closer to 0 we can possibly get. Now, we've hypothesized, because we found inside VIP a bond auction. I'll load up our VIP collections here and just pull it up. We've got a bond auction on August 26th right here. That's how we knew that the total three, in combination also with technical analysis, bouncing off this repeating trend line, was going to see a rejection, because all of this liquidity is getting pulled out of the market. So in order to know when the run-up's going to happen, we're going to correlate it with when this is when the run-up took place. February 19th on Bitcoin. We can see it's way higher because Bitcoin doesn't need the additional influx of capital to build on their network. right? It's just Bitcoin. It is what it is, a store of value. This is AVAX, the run-up, February 20th, February 20th, February 20th, the exact date that this drops off. So to answer your question, once we get a massive decline in bonds, and we've already hypothesized based on that screenshot that I showed you from inside VIP, around August 26th, a year in the future, we'll start seeing the beginnings of a run-up. Easy Wake and Bake GOP Mega Oven asks me, what else is in our portfolio? Great question. So there's a lot of people out there that are thinking.
Good question.
We got the sound effect there for a great question. Awesome. There's a lot of people out in the space that preach diversification is the way to go. Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and Mark Cuban. You can YouTube this anytime you want. Every Berkshire Hathaway meeting, they take 10 minutes to poke fun at everybody who teaches diversification, because Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and Mark Cuban, you give those guys $1 million, they'll tell you flat out, you buy the best asset you can find, and that's it. Over time, let's say you start out with $10,000 a year and you can save $1,000 a month. After a year plus gains, eventually you won't even be able to change your HODL position at all. You're going to be affecting it like less than 1%. That's when you start diversifying. It's a forced diversification over time. So showing you guys a screenshot of my bag. Let me see if I can pull this up. No, I don't have it here. At the last local top, I've got $300,000 in Kaspa, all spread out in multiple wallets, totally safe. The issue is I can't save more than $3,000 a month. I can't do 1% of my portfolio. So now I'm forced into diversification. And anybody who's right now entering the market, you've got $10,000 in your hand and you can save $10,000. You want to get an all-in position on Kaspa at the swing low in a year. There's still loads of time because the run-up hasn't even started. And the thing is, different projects will have a stronger distribution channel. A great example of this is that ZK Technology plays like Miria, for example. We know later in the market, they need that influx of capital injected in to really get going. Then you can start to diversify after you've already seen gains. A key factor that we look for, and this is how we found Kaspa. I'll show you exactly how we found Kaspa and therefore how I find my side bags, one of the tactics that we use. So Kaspa just had its recent run up here in April. Notice how price was stable here. Meanwhile, what we were doing is we were shorting. This was when the rest of the market got everything completely wrong. It was altcoin daily, crypto banter right here in May. All of YouTube got smashed because it was altcoin season, but we started uploading 45 days before this. Like we do with every trade we make in our VIP, we plan ahead. And what we try to do is combine technical analysis with fundamental bond market data. So we were shorting AVAX at the time based on this repeating resistance trend line and our knowledge. Powell raises rates right here. It's a no-brainer. Anybody who took economics class 101, when he raises rates, they're creating an off-ramp to get your money out of crypto by your money, not retail. We're playing the full poker table here. Market makers like Jane and Jump Street, they're getting more money now. They're going to pay them more to buy these bonds. So they don't buy crypto, they buy the bonds. And so we shorted AVAX right then. And that was May. of 2023. Where's that? Anyway, so AVAX completely crashes. And this is how we found Kaspa. So we're short on AVAX, and it was right here. We shorted AVAX. There's a repeating trend line, just like on the total 3 that bounces down. This massive wick right here was when Jane and Jump Street, and this happened across altcoins market wide. Jane and Jump Street dumped all their legacy crypto. They dumped their entire Robinhood position. All of YouTube's like, oh my goodness, what went wrong? They're like, oh, it'll recover, or buy the dip, whatever nonsense they're peddling. 90% of what these guys come up with is nonsense. We've made more money than everybody just using these simple stock trading fundamental ideas with technical analysis and some other particulars. Anyway, look what happens on Kaspa. So the market from June 1st to this FOMC meeting is bad. It's a bloodbath. Kaspa's not only unaffected, it's starting to move to the upside. And right there, we don't even need to do fundamental research. We realize, based on technical analysis, this was a clear either double top, which would bring it back up to 5 for a nice double up, or it was a cup and handle. Most likely the cup and handle. Using some other technical analysis pointers, we were able to identify it found support. This was back then, this was the only trend line that existed. When you clone that, you can find that it actually fits down here. So we started getting contact and support bouncing off that, running parallel with the FOMC, and we just knew instantly. Market makers, people that are really at this poker game with the big chips, everything else is getting dumped and they're buying Kaspa. That's exactly what that showed us. And we knew this is it. So we bought it, and then we started doing research, and we were able to hypothesize marathon. Using that exact same sentiment measurement, we can assess new listings because they'll be very volatile, just like Kaspa, around FOMC meetings. Look at how much Kaspa is directly correlated with FOMCs. This is when we gave the 10x leverage trade. 72 hours before the God candle, right on the main channel. We didn't even open VIP yet. We were recording off our cell phone, proving that we had merits, proving that we had something that other people couldn't offer, worth value. We give the 10x leverage trade away for free in detailed technical analysis. 72 hours later, the price explodes. We open VIP parallel with this FOMC, rockets, and then during this last downtrend, this last repeating access to the downside, FOMC right here, we get our group in at 11.5 cold storage, avoiding this trap. A lot of people got lured into buying here. We released on the main channel, don't buy here in April. FOMC meeting happens, and then we loaded up leverage trades, 10x to 7x between 12.25 and 13.3. All of them survived the carry trade. And to top it off, using technical analysis gets a bad name. It's an invaluable skill that you should definitely study, particularly when you combined it with the repeating trend line system, which we teach exclusively on these altcoins. Other people teach it on different cryptos. We identified this head and shoulder pennant appearing after the FOMC and initiated stop loss, like, look out, we're losing momentum. We're going to get rejected at the repeating trend line on the y-axis. So getting back into your question, first of all, never use coin market cap to find your altcoins. Use crypto rank, because when you click on them, you can start to see who's behind. You get way more information. Here's the VCs. You can see Jump Street's right on here. Remember, they own a piece of Marathon Digital. They're huge players in the crypto sector. They own all these altcoins. You get the vesting. So you get a lot more information and data right here on Crypto Rank. Using the 24-point checklist to vet projects. We have 7 of these written out. 2 of them are for projects that aren't even listed yet. So if you're new, you're just starting with Kaspa now, before even the distribution stage and the run-up takes place, these new projects can get listed. So you'll get your upside on Kaspa. You won't be able to build your bag any farther. 8 months, 12 months down the road, and you can start to DCA into stuff that's not even listed yet. We've got the #1 GameFi pick. As soon as you read the report, you'll realize instantly this GameFi is going to destroy everything. Yes, Mr. Miles, crypto rank is where it's at. We've got loads of other tools and how to use them inside the 24-point checklist. That rabbit hole goes way deeper. So part of, as we put these reports together, we want to correlate their price movement if they're already on the board with FOMC meetings. So my #1 side bag is Spectral. It's a Polychain Capital AI pick. The reason why we're so strong on Spectral, easy bake, wake and bake oven, is because Spectral, not only is it listed by Polychain Capital, the tokenomics are locked up until the summer of 2025. That's very bullish. It's very much fluctuating with FOMC type of data. We just recently did a swing trade with it off of the BOJ crash, scooping it up on super lows. We are starting to form a hypothesis right here to sell based on a head and shoulder pattern. We scooped it up back here. So we're getting another opportunity to buy low. But the point of this chart is it's very reactive with FOMC meetings, which is showing. And when you read the data about what's going on with the project, the people that are investing in it right now are the market makers. It's not really available for retail yet, and they have a huge distribution phase panned out. So this was the #1 string trade market-wide, excluding microcaps under 10 million. We called this out in VIP. Once the Bank of Japan carry trade was on the table, we start planning this GameFi trade. And you guys know I don't do a lot of GameFi, but in this scenario, we needed to get a buy plan ready to go. We start planning to buy here off the BOJ, continue downside. 18 hours later, the crash fully extends. Everybody in the comments like, now? We're like, absolutely now. We're loading up. And then when it reached 70, we actually gave an add-on buy alert. And now we're reaching the full peak. And before the potential next BOJ wick, we're going to go ahead and take profits. And maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get another smash crash from the BOJ. But our #1 pick is Spectral because it's going to have a huge distribution channel. And the way the cash is lining up with the FOMC meetings, the investors right now in Spectral are billion-dollar corporations. But we have 24-point reports on an Alex Becker AI pick, which is very strong too, called Desync. We do technical analysis on that to grab the lows. Good question. Yes, the next FOMC meeting is days away, running parallel with the Casplex launch. As we know the fundamentals, about what's actually going on with rate cuts, everybody thinks instantly, this is super bullish. They're cutting rates. We know that's good. Just from word of mouth. What's actually going on is they're getting money out of the bond market, and it will take time, as we can see from this history. This is the history of rate cuts. Every single historic rate cut has been bearish and sideways because fundamentally, it's expressing a weakness in the market. It's expressing a need for stimulation, for cash injections. Once that cash is received, things build, they grow, they go to the upside. And then, of course, when that bubble completely pops, then we get our distribution phase, which totally reshapes altcoin. And for Kaspa, for anybody who's thinking $10 is unrealistic, we're talking $2 during the run-up. There's even technical analysis that shows we're going to $2 in the run-up. And then we're going to get the distribution channel. So we don't have all the data that we need to understand how big this bull market's going to be. What if Powell decides he's just going to cut rate once? What if Powell just cuts rates the one time? And then this and this happens in the political thing. We go to war now, and they need to start selling more bonds to buy war machine stuff. That's how they do it too. What if they start raising rates because they need the money to come into the war machine? This can happen. This is really going down. You guys have been hearing Putin been talking recently. This is the worst case scenario for the bull run. We start a war. Powell decides he's not going to stimulate the economy. He's going to stimulate the war machine. And the market makers don't care because the biggest market makers own the war machine. So they're like, yeah, go for it. They're just waiting, getting the economy up, and then later they'll stimulate the war machine. It's entrenched in our way of life from the bond market. Those bonds go to making B-2 dive bombers and everything like that. So what if the rates start going up? What we'll get then, that was what was happening here. The rates actually kept going up. This provides fundamentally an off-ramp for the biggest players to take their money out of crypto. Part of this is the popularity. So with crypto's growing popularity, in the event that there's a war and the bond rates keep going up, instead of having the run up and then higher highs, it would be more like the run up and then maybe a double top, or just one blow off top, just one massive peak. That's it. It will be much more complex to chart a bull market if the rates do anything different than they did last year. It's going to be very easy for us to use this price model and get maximum value. Whether we're moving out of big projects that are going to have a strong run up and then into more of the ZK tech that'll have a stronger distribution, or we're 100% Kaspa, whatever, we'll have a much easier time if this number goes down to zero and stays there for a year, which is the design to create a healthy distribution. That's our miracle play for bonds. So now you can start watching TV and correlating what they're saying. Yes, they're starting to piece together bullish catalysts right now. This is probably going to be happening more towards November, December. So to get us out of this bond rate, I don't want to get into too much detail of it because a lot of this technical analysis that we have and the charting details that you're asking is kind of behind the paywall. I can't really unveil everything because you won't have the full picture. We really need to get more into details on the repeating trendline system, things along that nature to fully spell it out. Oftentimes with the Dunning-Kruger effect, we can get a piece of the puzzle and misinterpret it. So to give you some of the information with these, this is the history of bond cuts. Okay. So as these exchange listing happens, Powell's cutting rates 4 years ago because Bitcoin aligned everything perfectly with the global liquidity cycle with the halving event. As these rate cuts get hacked down, we get short-term rallies, but ultimately downside. And we can see that on Bitcoin. We can see that on the stock market in prior rate cuts, even before crypto was around. It's always bearish and sideways. And we've covered the fundamentals on what drives that. These exchange listings and what's happening right now are creating the bullish factors to get us out of this downward sloping trend that we are starting to slide into from rate cuts fundamentally. I hope the KRC launch goes smoothly. It's the only FUD next to the FUD of Dev openly supporting war crimes. Educate yourself, people, and get Kaspa. Understand decentralization and open source proof of work. Very key piece of wisdom right there. The KRC20 launch, this is their second pass. The last time, we can zoom in, they obviously had some issues. This time it's set to go much more smoother, but remember, this is just opening the door to start building on Kaspa chain. As you jump over and read the X post that was done by Kasplex, they're constantly talking about we're excited to be building and people joining the network and we're growing, because all they've got right now is 45 meme coins. So yeah, there'll be some hype to the upside, but it's not really that DeFi llama game-changing size volume off of what we're seeing right now. And of course, yes, understanding decentralization and open source proof of work. Super good stuff. It's a commodity at the end of the day, and anybody can use it. Kim Jong-un could use Kaspa to keep track of his people. And of course, the KII, which is a business just like Kasplex. Kasplex is a business. They've got nothing to do with Kaspa. They're using Kaspa to enhance their already existing business model, which includes Ice River Miners, OKX Exchange, and of course, Rhubarb Media. They do logos and online branding. So they're going to help design, build, and probably get hired, I would imagine, by VCs who want to build on Kaspa chain to make sure all the dogs, frogs, cats, robots, everything's in sync, colored teal, right? Makes sense. They have all their marketing and advertising ready. Rhubarb Media alone is going to build massive meme coins. Right now, it's the underground linked up together. So yes, always study. And one of the best tools that you can use is artificial intelligence to educate yourself. For everybody who's been using Google to do your web crawling information, forget about it. Go over and just start using Super Chat GPT or my personal favorite, Agent GPT. That's where you do your crypto research, not Google. Google's going to give you paid, filtered narratives. Agent GPT is going to help you deep dive. With the 24-point checklist system, we also have 84 questions that you can cut, copy, paste, and inject into artificial intelligence to get a full understanding. And this entails a lot of reading. This VIP group isn't for everybody. If you want to study really hard, you want to put the hours in, you want to start reading documents, this is the VIP group for you. This Destro report that we put together, this is 8 pages, not including links. With all the web tools and the additional links on here, it's almost a 50-page. We've got one on Aether, that new D-pin monster. We've got one on Spectral. We've got some other picks. We even have one showing how powerful the 24-point checklist system is. We were vetting this one AI project that from a 1-hour review, looking over the tokenomics, looking over the team, we thought, hey, right, Google's getting out of control. We thought, hey, this one project, it was called Blender, is going to do well. It wasn't until we broke out the 24-point checklist that we realized how clever the teams are at hiding the weaknesses. It's a no. I never even broke the 24-point checklist out on it because there's too many giant red flags instantly about Kubrick. So I would say that's a no. To give you an idea of one that we've done more research that we also caught a red flag on besides Blender. So we still did a report on Blender because we had thought it was so good. We got halfway through the report and then we realized it was terrible. So just to show how good this system is at finding either pots of gold like we did with Spectral or massive red flags. We finished the rest of the report, posted it up there with a don't buy alert on Blender, which is like a 1 GPU plug and play. During the distribution phase, you're going to see plug and play miners with goofy tokens and use cases coming all over because it's the next batch of investors. We don't even realize how early we are, guys, but you're going to find out because people from the stock market, people who have never traded in the world are going to come rushing in when they see the gains that we're making. Casplex is getting in front of the curve right now. It's just meme coins currently, but it's going to be all kinds of goofy stuff. Plug and play miners, AI things, nodes as a service. Alphium. Somebody in VIP asked me if I could do a 24-point report on Alphium, help them vet it out. I took a look into it, and it was on step, I want to say 4 or 5, which is we checked the GitHub page, which is where the team posts all their code. You'll often see a link to the GitHub in the white paper. Have AI read through the GitHub and analyze what kind of code. What's the team working on now? How often is the team posting? Get a feel for what kind of coding work is going on. Because as laymen, we don't know. I don't know how to read code, but I need to know what the team's doing. I need to be able to walk into their warehouse and see that they're painting the fence, building the chair, which I cannot without artificial intelligence. So as I go into the warehouse of Alphium and I notice that they're full of it because the code that they're writing everything on isn't Solidity or Rust, which are two popular ones in crypto. It's their own custom code called Ralphium. So they can't take devs from anywhere. It's only the team building these ghost town apps. So really weird find with that. Yeah, and there's some upsides with Alphium. They have really great tokenomics, but the narrative that it's going to run to the upside based on development on chain, there's no data supporting that fundamentally. It's much more because their tokenomics are just at a standstill. They basically have it fully unlocked right now because it takes like 80 years to unlock. Right? So very clever, but also at the same time, no. And then when you start to get even farther into their technology, like their double sharding, it's kind of it's nothing spectacular. Let's bring that up on CryptoRank.com and see what CryptoRank can show us instantly. Okay. Zero fee blockchain DeFi. I haven't done a deep dive into it, but looks like some zero fee blockchain. I don't know. What was the question again? DEX being built on Kaspa. Yes. Okay. KRC and the DEXs. Okay. So KRC20 is only the inscriptions. Inscriptions is really surface level. That's really above the shoulders numbers. It's not smart contracts. I have a document covering this in detail a bit here with the ERC20 stablecoin transactions. So let's break down some more of the technicals of what KRC20 is all about. Every chain has their own RC20. That stands for their inscriptions. With Ethereum, the OG, it's ERC20. With Tron, which is leading right now in stablecoins, according to DeFi Llama, it's TRC20. And then there's other variations. It doesn't always end with RC20, but what these can handle, they're not smart contracts. They only handle the surface level of transactions, like monetary numbers, keeping track of transactions. Smart contracts is the next layer down. So these aren't smart contracts. In order to do full DeFi, don't quote me on this, but I think you're going to have smart contracts up and running to handle all of that, even though it is happening on the surface level, on the KRC20 layer. There has to be some more depth, I would imagine. Of course, we're in the deep end now of Techville and how much we have to understand. We only need to go to the depth that we can follow the money. As KRC20 is launching now, we'll see if there's any Trader Joe type utility coins that start seed funding. It'll be because of their timing, and market makers will step up to do that. I would think that they can, actually, as this is a fundraising event. They're trying to draw cash in to build on the chain, not just meme coins, but more utility tokens. So I don't know. We'll do a deep dive into that and report back on the next live stream. But we're right on the edge of really the deep end of technicals to seeing if KRC20 can actually run a utility coin, because they can do stables. They can do the surface level of transactions. But in order to get that full swapping, to get that full platform like Trader Joe, I think you would need smart contracts as well. Any tech wizards can help us out in the comments? Yes, stacking Kaspa, and everybody likes to stay active. Everybody wants to have a side bag. They want to trade some leverage. They want to start building an additional side bag. And looking forward, I'm a Kaspa maxi myself, which goes completely against the grain of somebody who would want to sell a VIP. One of the reasons why I always dislike some of the creators, John in particular, is because he teaches diversification. That's great for his VIP because he's always got new picks coming up down the road. The key is timing entry, utilizing technical analysis combined with bond market understanding. This is a skill set that nobody else has been able to exhibit. So they replace it with diversification. Just off Kaspa's last swing low, we scored the bullseye. We got the exact bottom prices, and we're able to do leverage trades because we have an understanding in these two compartments. So we've got trading plans into the future of Kaspa to help everybody get the best price, make leverage trades, as well as we're looking into other projects to do multipliers for projects that are going to have a big distribution phase, particularly in the event where we get that perfect setup where rates crash down to zero and stay there for a year. There'll be loads of projects like Myria, ZK Tech, and other ones. Spectral, great example. Tau, another example of a project that will do so well during the distribution phase. It'll have a nice run up, but as things are getting built on artificial intelligence, as they're expanding what was previously NFTs during the last bull cycle, plug and play miners, nodes as a service, which is just Ponzi-nomics, hidden as crypto, we'll see this getting forced into artificial intelligence because of government regulations. Absolutely. Enormous benefits. Let me show you what's inside of VIP. You don't even have to leverage trade to take part in cold storage, swing trading, and just buying the low. You've got some cash you want to put in Kaspa. We're waiting buy orders coming up in the future when we're going to get it. Understanding of technical analysis, extremely underrated. And it sounds like to me, Technical analysis might be an area that you're avoiding. You're trying to focus more on fundamentals in general. We have loads of information about fundamentals, particularly macroeconomics. So you don't even really need to do any charting realistically, as long as you understand the macroeconomics. Like this recent wick down on the total 3, August 26th. Let's see what was going on inside macroeconomics and VIP. We notice on August 27th, there's a huge bond sale. We know rate cuts are coming up. Therefore, we're playing the market maker's hand. This is their last chance to buy these 5% yields. So they're going to buy them, and that's going to pull liquidity out of the market, exactly like it did. Understanding this, that's a fine detail. On a broader picture, it's how the FOMC meetings in the bond market plays out to the run-up, the distribution phase, what you want to buy, and when you want to buy it. Important macroeconomics is part of fundamentals. We've got when new listings come out, tracking that, techniques and strategies to get involved with new listings that are going to be profitable. You could even use this for meme coins. We've got a whole detailed strategy guide, as well as like the Alex Becker pick. What was it called? NIA. Oh, this was our swing trading plan. This was the best swing trading plan in the entire market during the Bank of Japan carry trade, which might happen next week, by the way. The Bank of Japan just raises their rates. And the way that these big dogs are doing is they're like borrowing money in Japan, then coming over to the United States and investing. That's what caused that massive wick down last month. During the FOMC meeting, it's all about monetary policy. Nobody talks about it. I don't know why. Anyway, this was our trading plan. Matrix Fire. We're always planning in advance. It's never one of those like, quick, you've got 15 minutes to press the button or the opportunity's over with. I checked out other groups to see what was going on. I was like, dude, come on. Anyway, we start planning here, crashes down, we're loading up. We actually did an add-on on 70 cents, which is still at swing all-time high, another double up. So this is like a potential triple up, double up, twice over off of the Bank of Japan low. How did we know that? Because we used the 24-point checklist. So I've already built out 7 reports. This one's for Destra. That's an Alex Becker and artificial intelligence report. It's 8 pages, not including links and web tools to really break it down. With that Matrix Fire pick, they're testing it in Japan, and they're going to bring it over to the United States. And it's a good game. People like playing it. It's got slow bullets. Matrix Fire means like slow bullets. That's like a whole thing that the gamer world, not the crypto world, is into. So we've got these reports filled out. The majority of them are for artificial intelligence. We've even got one that's a no-buy report that we thought was going to be good and then discovered was bad, issuing a no-buy just to show how valuable that is. That one's on Blender. And we've got 2 projects aren't even on the exchanges yet. One of them is going to be the best GameFi project of all time. It's going to completely steal the show this cycle. You can just see how fun it's going to be to play. It's going to be a great game. Great game. The gamer world is already excited for it. It's got connections with Apple. So it'll be right on the front line of the Apple App Store. It's going to be huge. Everything's going in the right direction. So I live with really rich guys. This is $1 million condo on the Vegas Strip. Hanging out with these guys, I was wondering, why are these guys even talking to me about crypto? Because these guys get into it with me in the coffee lounge and in the gym and stuff. I mean, these guys speak on CNBC. Hand to God. They're like big shots in the financial world. They own an exchange overseas. They're picking my brain to see what's going on at this level. They were telling me about this GameFi pick, and I already had done the report on it. How did we do the report? We have how to screen using CryptoRank.com. You can figure this out on your own, but we'll give you some tips and tricks on how to use the tool better, how to run the filter, looking for GameFi, what to look for, 24 points of detail. No stone is left unturned. If you're more new to the sector, we all were at one time. I remember when I was first trying to learn about crypto, I would just surf the internet constantly looking for videos, and I would learn like that, like what's a layer 2? This is way more constructive learning. If you factor the amount of time you're going to spend weeding through garbage videos, this is all the good stuff all at once that you need, and it gives you the tools to educate yourself. Just take a moment, pause. I don't understand this Web3 slang word. Open up your Chat GPT, define it, continue reading the white paper. You got to start reading white papers. Try a couple out. It's very eventful. On top of the 24-point checklist, we've got 84 questions you can cut, copy, paste. Videos on how to set up the origin trendline system, combining that with classical patterns, all of our trading plans. You can go way back to our old Kaspa trading plans here and see how we were using the wick-off system, etc. So yeah, there's a lot inside VIP. I think it's hands down the best value. The biggest mistake with VIP is I've definitely not priced it correctly, but that's more value for you guys. This probably should cost a lot more. I don't have very good skills with audio, video. I don't know how to price anything on social media. I just gave it a fair price that I thought was good. You're getting tons of value here. I'm taking a hit giving you all this work for so cheap. So drumstick forever. How can we define the 3 different phases? And we can flip this over on its head. And that's why I crushed everybody else. We beat everybody because we were able to identify the sell-off phase was still going on back here. Go to your favorite or the biggest social media influencers, Crypto Banter, Altcoin Daily, on this FOMC meeting as Powell's raising rates. This is going to all tie into your question answer. They were going, it's altcoin season. That's ridiculous, nonsensical idea. As he's raising rates here, he's completing the sell-off phase, which is the 3rd phase. To show this on the Bitcoin chart, see right here, he's raising rates, which is what he just did in May, causing that other low thing. When they want to take money out of the street, out of businesses, and back into the federal government to stabilize inflation, look at this date, June 17th, 2021. Oh, wow. Just happens to be the exact date that Bitcoin crashed. And of course, they added some regulation on right here to ensure that the quality of projects that come out during the distribution phase of this upcoming market will be different than the last ones. Because the last ones were those goofy Bored Ape yacht clubs and a bunch of like Ponzi-nomic schemes. We don't even understand how early we are until the bull run starts. Because in the right conditions, the bull run goes on for a year. So the way that we figure it out is we need to interpret the FOMC's data. He could make it really easy for us and drop rates all the way down to 0. The run up is on when this bubble hits into cryptocurrency. So there's a twofold factor here. Satoshi, in his genius, he timed this with something called the the Bitcoin halving with this. It's something called the global market liquidity cycle, because it was exactly 4 years ago that Powell started cutting rates. We can see on the Bitcoin chart, he was cutting rates here. And as we can see, it goes downward and sideways. It's all tied in with the global liquidity cycle. Now we're right after a Bitcoin halving again. And once again, Powell stepping up to cutting rates right on time. So in order to make that correlation, it comes from bond market data. So we're piecing that information together as it unfolds. inside VIP. This rabbit hole goes much deeper. We're giving you the surface level here. We don't even have all the data. So we won't know until the Fed continues to act. Part of the equation is the Bitcoin halving. It's every 500 to 550 days after the halving, the supply gets restricted. What we're measuring here is the secondary factor, Satoshi's genius, the demand getting increased. That's why Bitcoin was designed to soak money up. The supply gets restrained as the global liquidity market cycle, let me see if I can bring that chart up, increases the demand. Yeah, it's right here. This is all about bonds and Satoshi's genius ultimately. This is a chart showing the global liquidity cycle. It's every 5.5 years. That's what this red line is saying. So right down here is where we are right now. All the money is in bonds. And then the federal government stimulates the economy by reducing the bond rate, pushing it back out onto the street, creating the global liquidity cycle. This has nothing to do with crypto. This is economics. Satoshi knows this, knew this, therefore incorporated it into the Bitcoin halving. So that's a question that is not yet known because we have to watch the FOMC more. Yeah, and both sides of the political span have different players ready to try to get that bubble. We can break down the key players. It's some ex-Google AI techs that are actually building weapons of war that are lobbying with the Democrats this cycle. Usually those guys lobby with the Republicans, like Bush. Bush has come out because his backers, the Google AI war guys, are now backing that side. And then, of course, you got JD Vance and PayPal. They're trying to make sure that Silicon Valley and the tech bubble, hence you saw the Facebook kid there, Mark Zuckerberg, was like, yeah, Trump looked really cool on TV after, he put his fist up after getting cracked at. That's all about the lobbyists that are in position to get this bubble. Everybody wants this. This is the ball. Eyes on the ball. So, yeah, and what can happen in the worst case scenario with the particular politics is we can go to war and they can start printing more bonds and just be like, forget about injecting money back on the street. The people can go hungry. We just want more bonds for the war and just raise the rates higher, which will restrict the distribution phase and cause a whole nother thing. So deep rabbit hole. We're getting off subject. Stablecoins, super key. And this inscriptions is opening the door for it. We can see Kaspa seeing some nice run up as people are buying the coin, getting ready to do meme coin swaps. So very exciting week for crypto and finance in general. The FOMC and the potential BOJ, all they have to do is raise rates and the whole house of cards collapses. So stay tuned. Now's the time we want to be at our computers. Take a look in VIP. We've got loads of trading plans incorporating technical analysis with all this fundamental data, as well as trading plans for projects to take advantage of the 3 phases, knowing that, honing in on that to make sure we get our most bang for our buck. We're so early right now, it's ridiculous. But of course, every penny counts because we're going to get a multiplier, a huge multiplier. So super exciting times. Thanks for checking out this live stream, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Exciting.